Dr. Kim Dae-ho walked into the biggest room he had ever seen. The Galactic Council chamber stretched out like a small city. Hundreds of alien beings sat in floating seats that moved around the room like slow-moving clouds. Some aliens looked like giant insects. Others had too many arms or eyes that glowed in the dark. A few looked almost human, but their skin was blue or purple. Kim felt very small as he walked to the center of the room. He carried a simple data pad in his hands. On that pad was an idea that could change everything. But first he had to convince these ancient aliens to listen to a human. Behind him walked his two best friends and fellow scientists. Park Bo-ra was the smartest engineer on Earth. She could build anything if you gave her the right tools. Lee Hee-jin knew more about tiny particles and invisible forces than anyone else on their planet. Together they made up Earth's first science team to visit the Galactic Council. The room grew quiet as Kim reached the speaking platform. A tall alien with too many teeth stepped forward. This was Ambassador Hylian from the Vorthak race. His people had been traveling between stars for thousands of years before humans even learned to make fire. Human, Hylian said through a machine that turned his clicks and hisses into words they could understand. You may speak, but make it quick. We have important matters to discuss. Kim took a deep breath. He had practiced this speech 100 times, but his hands still shook. Thank you, Ambassador. I want to talk about a new kind of weapon, not like guns or bombs. Something that works by changing the rules of space itself. A wave of strange sounds filled the room. Some aliens were laughing. Others made noises that sounded like anger. A few just stared at Kim like he had said something very stupid. Go on, said another alien from the back of the room. This one looked like a tree that could walk and talk. Kim touched his datapad and pictures appeared in the air above his head. Numbers and symbols danced around like a light show. We call it quantum entanglement targeting. When two particles are connected at the smallest level, they stay connected no matter how far apart they are. If you change one particle, the other changes instantly, even if they are on opposite sides of the galaxy. Park Bo-ra stepped forward and pointed at the floating pictures. We can use this connection to move objects through space without them traveling the distance between. Like opening a door that leads anywhere you want. The room exploded with noise. Aliens were talking all at once in hundreds of different languages. The translation machines could not keep up. Kim heard words like impossible and stupid and waste of time coming through clearly. Ambassador Hylian raised one of his forearms to make everyone quiet. Human scientist, he said with what sounded like a smile in his voice. Your people have been flying between planets for what? 200 years? My people were building starships when your world was covered in ice. What you suggest breaks the basic laws of how the universe works. An alien that looked like a floating jellyfish spoke next. The Xanthari race tried similar ideas 15,000 years ago. The amount of power you would need could eat up entire suns. We gave up because it cannot be done. Lee Hee-jin had been quiet until now. She was the youngest of the three humans, but she was also the bravest. With respect, Ambassador, your people made those attempts using old ways of thinking about energy. Humans have found new ways to create and use power that your race has never tried. New ways? Another alien laughed so hard his whole body shook. Child, we have forgotten more about energy than your people will ever learn. Kim felt his face turn red, but he kept talking. Maybe that is the problem. You have forgotten how to try new things. You think in old patterns. Humans are good at looking at problems in ways that no one else has tried before. The room went very quiet. Many aliens looked angry now. A few looked curious. Most just looked bored. A small alien with big eyes floated down from the ceiling. Even if your math is correct, human, and it is not, the weapon you describe would be too dangerous. A tool that can strike anywhere in the galaxy instantly? No single race should have such power. We do not want power over anyone, Kim said quickly. We want to protect ourselves. Earth is new to this galactic community. We are small and weak compared to older races. This weapon would only be used if someone attacked us first. Ambassador Hylian made a sound like metal scraping on stone. The council has heard enough. We will vote now on whether this project should be allowed. Kim watched as lights appeared above each alien delegate. Red lights meant no. Green lights meant yes. Blue lights meant maybe. As the voting went on, Kim's heart sank. Red lights filled the room like stars in a night sky. Not a single green light appeared. The vote is complete, Hylian announced. The council finds this weapon project to be impossible, dangerous, and a waste of resources. Earth is advised to focus on more practical defense technologies. Perhaps better shields or faster ships. The three humans stood in the middle of the giant room as aliens began to leave. Some flew away on wings. Others walked on too many legs. A few just disappeared in flashes of light. That went well, Park Bo-ra said with a bitter laugh. Lee Hee-jin was staring at her datapad. Did you notice something strange about their arguments? You mean besides calling us stupid children? Kim asked. They never said our math was wrong. They said it was impossible because of energy requirements. But those requirements are based on their old technology. What if we are not limited by their assumptions? Kim looked back at the nearly empty chamber. A few aliens were still floating around, but most had left to discuss more important things. You know what the funny thing is? They probably said the same thing when humans first split atoms. Impossible. Too dangerous. Should not be allowed. Park Bo-ra smiled for the first time since they arrived. So what do we do now? Kim closed his datapad and started walking toward the exit. We go home, and then we build the impossible. The three humans left the Galactic Council chamber with their heads held high. Behind them, a few aliens whispered among themselves. Most thought the humans were foolish dreamers. But one or two wondered if they had just made a terrible mistake by underestimating the newest race in the galaxy. In the weeks that followed, Earth received an official message from the Council. The quantum entanglement weapon project was forbidden. Any attempt to build such a device would result in Earth being removed from the galactic community. Kim read the message 3 times, and then deleted it. Some rules, he decided, were meant to be broken, especially when those rules were made by people who had forgotten how to dream of impossible things. The real work was about to begin. 3 years had passed since the Galactic Council told Earth that their weapon idea was impossible. Deep under the desert sands of the Gobi, in a place that did not exist on any map, Dr. Kim Dae-ho stared at the most beautiful sight he had ever seen. A grain of sand floated in the center of a metal room. Around it, machines hummed and sparked with enough power to light up a small city. But the sand was not just floating. It was connected to another grain of sand in a different room, 3 miles away underground. When scientists touched one grain, the other grain moved at exactly the same time. It worked, whispered Park Bo-ra, who now had the title of chief engineer. Her hair had gone gray from 3 years of 18-hour workdays, but her eyes still sparkled with excitement. It actually worked. Dr. Lee Hye-jin looked up from her computer screen, which showed numbers and graphs that most people could not understand. The connection is stable. Distance does not seem to matter at all. We could put 1 grain on Earth and 1 grain on the moon, and they would still move together instantly. Kim felt tears in his eyes. For 3 years, everyone had called them crazy. The Galactic Council had forbidden their work. Earth's own government had almost shut down the project 5 times. Only a few powerful people believed that humans could build something that ancient alien races said was impossible. Captain Cho Min-ho walked into the room carrying a cup of coffee and a worried expression. He was the military officer assigned to watch over the project. At first, he thought the scientists were wasting time and money. Now he understood they might have built the most powerful weapon in the galaxy. "Sir," said Technician Yoon Soo-bin from her control station, "the power readings are very strange. We expected the energy use to go up as we increased the distance between connected particles, but it is going down instead." "Down?" Kim walked over to look at her screen. "That should not be possible. According to this data, the quantum tunnel we created is making its own power somehow. The further apart the particles are, the more energy the tunnel pulls from empty space itself." Park Bo-ra laughed out loud. The aliens were right about needing massive amounts of energy. They just did not know where that energy would come from. The universe is providing the power for us. Lee Hye-jin was already working on new calculations. If this is true, then we do not just have a weapon. We have a new way to understand how space and time work. This could change everything humans know about physics. But their celebration was interrupted when Agent Bae Jin-woo rushed into the room. He worked for Earth's spy network and always brought bad news. Today was no different. "We have a problem," he said, breathing hard like he had been running. "Our satellites picked up encrypted messages between several alien races. They are talking about Earth in ways that make me very nervous." Kim set down his coffee cup. "What kind of talk?" "The kind that happens before someone decides to attack. The Hegemony Alliance is meeting in secret. Our sources say they are planning what they call a demonstration to put humanity in its proper place. Captain Cho Min-ho was already reaching for his communication device. How long do we have? Maybe 6 months? Maybe less. They are worried about how fast human technology is advancing. Some aliens think we are becoming too dangerous to ignore. The room went quiet except for the humming of machines. Everyone understood what this meant. The weapon they were building was no longer just a scientific experiment. It might be the only thing that could save Earth from destruction. Can we make it bigger? Kim asked. Instead of moving a grain of sand, can we move something the size of a building? Or a spaceship? Park Bo-ra was already thinking about the engineering problems. The theory says yes, but we would need much bigger machines. And we would have to test it very carefully. One mistake could tear apart everything within 100 miles. How long would it take? Captain Cho Min-ho asked. If we work day and night and get all the resources we need, maybe 4 months. But that is if everything goes perfectly. Lee Hee-jin looked up from her calculations. There is another problem. We have only tested moving objects from one place to another, but this weapon is supposed to work differently. Instead of moving enemy ships, we want to move parts of enemy ships away from the rest of the ship. Like taking apart a car while someone is driving it, Yoon Soo-bin said. Exactly. We need to be very precise about which particles we connect and which ones we move. Too much and we destroy everything. Too little and the weapon does no damage at all. Kim looked around the room at his team. These people had worked for 3 years with almost no sleep and very little hope. They had been called crazy and stupid and impossible dreamers. But now they were on the edge of creating something that could protect not just Earth, but change how war worked throughout the galaxy. Agent Bay, Kim said, tell your spy friends we need better information about alien ship designs, especially how their hulls are built and what materials they use. Captain Cho, we need more power generators and bigger machines. Also, we need to start training people to operate this weapon in battle conditions. Park Bo-ra, start designing the larger version. Make it powerful enough to affect objects the size of a city. Lee Hee-jin, figure out how to target specific parts of enemy ships without hitting other things by accident. What about the Galactic Council? Yoon Soo-bin asked. They forbid us from building this weapon. If they find out we ignored their orders, they might attack us themselves. Kim smiled, but it was not a happy smile. Let them find out. They had their chance to help us build something that could bring peace to the galaxy. They chose to call us children and send us away. Now they will see what human children can do when someone threatens their family. Over the next few months, the underground facility grew larger and busier. Trucks arrived every day carrying strange machines and rare materials. The world's best scientists came to work on the project, even though they could not tell their families where they were going or what they were doing. The tests grew more ambitious. First, they moved a baseball from one room to another, then a chair, then an entire car. Each success taught them more about how the quantum tunneling worked and how to control it better. But they also discovered something that worried them. Every time they used the weapon, it left behind invisible connections in space, like pathways that stayed open even after the test was over. Lee Hee-jin called them quantum scars. We do not know what these scars do, she explained to the team during one of their weekly meetings. They might fade away over time, or they might be permanent changes to how space works in those areas. Are they dangerous? Captain Cho Min-ho asked. We do not know, but they are definitely not natural. We are changing the universe in ways that might not be reversible. Park Bo-ra had been quiet during most of the meeting, but now she spoke up. Maybe that is not a bad thing. If these scars make it easier to use the weapon in the future, then we are building a network. Each time we fire the weapon, we create new paths that make the next shot more efficient. Kim nodded slowly. Like building roads between cities. The first road is hard to build, but after that, travel becomes easy. But what if someone else learns to use these roads? Agent Bay asked. What if we accidentally give other races access to the same technology? Then we better make sure we stay ahead of them, Kim said. Because ready or not, our time is running out. 2 weeks later, their worst fears came true. Long-range sensors detected a massive fleet of alien ships entering the outer edge of Earth's solar system. The hegemony had come to teach humanity a lesson about respecting their elders. The impossible weapon was about to face its first real test. The alien fleet looked like a dark cloud covering the stars. 300 ships floated at the edge of Earth's solar system, each one bigger than the largest cities on the human homeworld. They had traveled across the galaxy to deliver a simple message. Humanity needed to learn its place in the universe. In the underground control room beneath the Gobi Desert, alarms screamed like angry animals. Red lights flashed everywhere, making the walls look like they were covered in blood. Dr. Kim Dae-ho stood in the center of the chaos, watching displays that showed the impossible size of the enemy force. "Sir," called Lieutenant Commander Oh Da-eun from her station near the targeting computers, "we are receiving a transmission from the fleet commander." "Put it on the main screen," Captain Cho Min-ho ordered. A face appeared that looked like a nightmare. Admiral Rexthul was a Vorthok, the same species as Ambassador Helion, who had laughed at them in the Galactic Council. But where Helion had seemed bored and dismissive, Rexthul looked hungry for violence. His 4 eyes glowed red, and his mouth was full of teeth that looked like broken glass. "Humans," Rexthul spoke through the translation system, "you have ignored the wisdom of your elders. You have built forbidden weapons despite clear warnings. This ends now. Surrender your research and submit to hegemony oversight, or watch your world burn." The transmission ended, leaving the control room in silence except for the humming of machines and the quiet beeping of computers. Everyone looked at Kim, waiting for him to say something that would make sense of this terrible situation. "How long do we have?" Kim asked. 12 hours, Agent Bei Jin-woo answered. "That is what Rexthul said. After that, they start destroying our cities." Park Bora was already running calculations on her computer. "The weapon is ready for testing, but we have never tried it on anything as big as a spaceship. The largest target we have successfully moved was a car. What about just part of a ship?" Dr. Lee Hae-jin suggested. "We do not need to move the whole thing. Just enough of the hull to make it fall apart." Kim looked at the tactical display showing the enemy fleet. The ships were spread out across millions of miles of space, but the flagship was clearly visible at the center. It was a massive thing, like a mountain that could fly through space and destroy planets. "Can we target that flagship?" he asked Lieutenant Commander Oh Da-eun. "Yes, sir. Our sensors have a perfect lock on its position. But, sir, we have never tested the weapon at that distance. The flagship is 4 billion miles away." "The math says distance should not matter," Lee Hee-jin said, but her voice was not completely confident. "The quantum tunnel should work the same if the target is 4 miles away or 4 billion miles away." Technician Yoon Soo-bin was monitoring the power systems. "Energy levels are stable. The quantum generators are working normally. But sir, if this does not work, we will not get a second chance. The aliens will detect our weapon firing and destroy this facility with their next shot." Captain Cho Min-ho walked over to stand beside Kim. "Doctor, I need to ask you something important. Are you sure this weapon will not hurt innocent people? There might be alien civilians on those ships, maybe prisoners or refugees." Kim had been thinking about the same thing. The weapon targets specific materials. "We programmed it to affect only the hull plating of military vessels. If there are people inside the ships, they should not be hurt directly. But if a ship falls apart around them, they will die anyway," Cho Min-ho finished. "I understand. But we are not the ones who chose to start this fight." The room grew quiet again as everyone prepared for what might be humanity's last desperate gamble. If the weapon failed, Earth would be defenseless against the most powerful military force in the galaxy. If it worked, they would be taking the first step into a new kind of warfare that could change everything. "Targeting systems are locked onto the flagship," Oh Da-eun reported. "We have a clear shot. Quantum field generators are at full power," Yoon Soo-bin added. "All systems show green lights." Lee Hee-jin checked her instruments one more time. "Entanglement field is stable. We are ready to fire on your command." Kim felt the weight of 8 billion human lives on his shoulders. Every person on Earth was counting on this moment, even though most of them did not know this facility existed. In a few seconds, he would either save his species or doom it to extinction. "Fire," he said quietly. Nothing visible happened. There was no flash of light, no sound of explosions, no energy beam racing across space. The weapon worked by changing the rules of physics in ways that human eyes could not see. For a few seconds, everyone in the control room held their breath and watched the displays. Then the impossible happened. On the tactical screen, the alien flagship simply came apart, not like an explosion that tore metal and destroyed everything at once. Instead, the huge ship seemed to dissolve like sugar in water. Pieces of hull plating just disappeared, leaving empty space where solid metal had been moments before. The mountain-sized warship that could have cracked planets fell apart like a toy made of sand. Where there had been a vessel capable of destroying civilizations, now there was only confused debris floating in the dark. "Target destroyed," Oda-un announced, but her voice sounded like she could not believe her own words. The rest of the alien fleet stopped moving. On the communications channels, panicked voices filled the space between stars. Ships that had been advancing toward Earth suddenly stopped and began scanning everything around them, trying to understand what had just happened. "They cannot detect how we did it," Park Bo-ra said, reading the alien communication intercepts. "Their sensors show no energy discharge, no projectile, no weapon signature at all. From their perspective, their flagship just spontaneously fell apart." Admiral Rexthol's voice came through the communication system again, but this time he sounded terrified instead of confident. "What sorcery is this? How did you destroy our flagship? What kind of impossible weapon do you possess?" Kim picked up the communication device to answer. "Admiral, this is Dr. Kim Dae-ho of Earth. The weapon we used is not sorcery. It is science. Science that your people called impossible and forbid us to develop. You cannot have such technology. Humans are children playing with forces beyond their understanding." "Maybe we are children," Kim replied. "But we are children who listen to their teachers and then find better ways to do things. You taught us that this weapon was impossible. Thank you for the lesson." On the tactical display, the alien fleet was clearly confused and frightened. Some ships were retreating to a safer distance. Others were scanning space around them for threats they could not see or understand. A few were sending messages back toward their homeworlds, reporting that humanity possessed technology that violated everything they thought they knew about physics. But Kim knew this victory was only the beginning. The aliens would not give up easily. They would study what happened to their flagship and try to understand how the human weapon worked. Some would retreat and leave Earth alone. Others would become more determined to destroy humanity before this new technology could spread. "Sir," Yoon Subin called out, "I am reading something strange in the quantum field data." "What kind of strange?" Lee Hyojin asked. "The weapon firing created a permanent pathway between here and the target location. It is like the quantum tunnel stayed open even after we stopped firing. And sir, the pathway is spreading. It is connecting to other points in space." Kim felt a chill run down his back. "How far is it spreading?" "I cannot tell yet, but if this pattern continues, we might have accidentally created a network that spans the entire solar system, maybe further." Park Bo-ra looked up from her calculations. "A network that makes the weapon more powerful every time we use it. Each shot creates new pathways that make the next shot easier and more efficient." Kim realized they had built something far more dangerous and powerful than they had intended. This was not just a weapon that could destroy enemy ships. It was a system that could reshape how space itself worked, creating permanent changes that might last forever. But there was no time to worry about the long-term consequences. On the tactical display, the alien fleet was regrouping. Admiral Rexthal was not ready to give up, even after losing his flagship. He was preparing to attack Earth with everything he had left. The real battle was just beginning. Admiral Rexthal was not the kind of alien who gave up easily. For 1,000 years, his people had ruled the galaxy through fear and superior technology. No younger race had ever successfully challenged hegemony power. He was not about to let a species of primitive humans be the first. "All ships, attack Formation 7. His voice crackled through the communication channels between alien vessels, spread out across the entire solar system. "If they can destroy one ship, we will force them to destroy 300 at once." In the underground control room on Earth, Dr. Kim Dae-ho watched the enemy fleet scatter like leaves in a storm. Each ship moved to a different position, some heading toward Mars, others toward Jupiter, a few diving down toward Venus. It was a smart strategy that should have made the human weapon much less effective. "They are trying to force us to choose which targets to hit," Captain Cho Min-ho observed. "We cannot destroy all of them at once with a single shot." But Dr. Lee Hee-jin was staring at her computer screen with growing excitement. "Actually, we might be able to do exactly that. Look at these quantum field readings." She pointed to a display that showed invisible pathways spreading through space like a spider web. "When we destroyed the flagship, we created a permanent tunnel through spacetime. But that tunnel is not staying in one place. It is growing, connecting to other points throughout the solar system." Park Bo-ra was already working on new calculations. "If these pathways are stable, then we can use them like roads. Fire the weapon once and it travels through the network to hit multiple targets at the same time. How many targets? Kim asked. All of them, Lee Hyojin said quietly. The network has spread far enough to reach every ship in the alien fleet. Technician Yoon Subin looked up from her monitoring station. Sir, there is something else. The network is not just spreading randomly. It seems to be learning, adapting itself to become more efficient. Learning? Captain Cho Min-ho asked. You mean it is alive? Not alive exactly, Lee Hee-jin explained. But it is following patterns that make it work better. Each time we fired the weapon, the quantum tunnels became more stable and required less energy. Now the network is optimizing itself without any input from us. Kim felt a mixture of awe and terror. They had created something that was growing beyond their control, reshaping space itself to become more powerful. It was like building a fire that became bigger and hotter every time it burned something new. But there was no time to worry about what they had unleashed. On the tactical displays, alarms were flashing red. The alien fleet had finished repositioning and was beginning to attack Earth's outer colonies. Mars base is under attack, Agent Bei Jin-woo reported. They are bombing the mining stations and civilian shelters. Europa Research Station just went silent, Lieutenant Commander Oh Da-eun added. We lost contact 30 seconds ago. Kim closed his eyes and tried not to think about the thousands of people who were dying while he hesitated. The aliens had made their choice. Now humanity had to make theirs. Target all hostile vessels, he ordered. Prepare for network-wide activation. Sir, Yoon Subin said. The power requirements for targeting that many ships at once should be enormous. But according to these readings, the network is actually making it easier. It is like the quantum tunnels want to be used. All systems show ready, Oh Da-eun confirmed. We have targeting locks on every enemy ship in the solar system. Lee Hyojin checked her instruments one final time. Quantum field is stable. Network pathways are active. We can fire when ready. Kim looked around the control room at the people who had helped him build the impossible. They had started this project to protect Earth from alien aggression. Now they were about to unleash something that could change warfare throughout the galaxy. Fire, he said. This time the effect was visible even from Earth's surface. Across the solar system, alien warships simply fell apart. The quantum network reached out like invisible fingers, touching each vessel and carefully removing specific parts of their hull plating. In less than 10 seconds, the most powerful military force the galaxy had ever assembled was reduced to floating debris and emergency rescue pods. But as the tactical displays cleared of enemy contacts, the real surprise became apparent. The quantum network had not stopped growing when the battle ended. If anything, destroying so many targets at once had made it expand faster. The network now reaches beyond Pluto, Lee Hee-jin reported, her voice filled with wonder and fear. It is spreading out toward the nearest star systems. How is that possible? Park Bora asked. We only fired the weapon twice. I think each target we destroyed became a new node in the network, Yoon Subin explained. Every alien ship that fell apart left behind quantum pathways that connect to the rest of the system. We are not just building a weapon. We are building a web that spans interstellar space. Kim sat down heavily in his chair. How far could it spread? At this rate? The entire galaxy. Every time someone uses the network to attack a target, that target becomes part of the network. It grows stronger and reaches further with each use. Captain Cho Min-ho was reading reports from Earth's deep space monitoring stations. We are getting strange readings from alien homeworlds. The network seems to have reached the Vortex system, the Zenthari homeworld, even the core worlds of the Hegemony Alliance. Are we attacking them? Kim asked quickly. I did not give any orders to target civilian populations. No, sir, Oh Da-eun confirmed. The network is just there, like it is mapping out every possible target but waiting for instructions. Lee Hyojin was running new calculations on her computer. Based on these quantum field readings, I think the network is becoming selective. It can tell the difference between military targets and civilian ones. It is learning to recognize threats versus non-threats. So it is becoming smarter, Park Bora said. Great. We built an intelligent weapon that spans the galaxy and learns from experience. What could possibly go wrong? But before anyone could answer that question, new alarms started ringing. Long-range sensors were detecting massive fleet movements throughout known space. The news of humanity's impossible weapon was spreading, and alien civilizations were reacting in different ways. Some were retreating to their homeworlds and sending messages offering peace treaties. Others were gathering even larger fleets, determined to destroy Earth before the quantum network could spread further. A few were doing something unexpected. They were sending science ships to study the network and try to understand how it worked. "Sir," Agent Bei Jinwoo said, "we are receiving communication requests from over 50 different alien civilizations. Some want to surrender, some want to negotiate, some are demanding that we shut down the network immediately, and some are threatening to destroy our sun if we do not give them the technology," Captain Cho Min-ho added. Kim rubbed his tired eyes. When they started this project, all they wanted was to protect Earth from alien aggression. Now they had accidentally created something that could enforce peace throughout the galaxy, or destroy every civilization that tried to resist it. "What have we done?" he asked quietly. Lee Hee-jin looked up from her monitoring equipment. "We have made war obsolete," she said. "Any civilization that tries to attack another can be stopped instantly, from anywhere in the galaxy. No more planet-killing weapons, no more genocidal wars, no more military conquests. But who controls it?" Park Bora asked. "Who decides what counts as aggression and what counts as self-defense?" "Right now we do," Kim said. "But that cannot last forever. No single planet should have this much power over the entire galaxy." On the communication channels, messages continued to pour in from across known space. Some aliens were begging for mercy, others were demanding explanations. A few were offering to share their most advanced technologies in exchange for protection from the network. Kim realized they had reached a turning point in galactic history. The weapon they built to defend Earth had become something much bigger and more important. Now they had to decide what to do with a power that could reshape civilization itself. The age of galactic warfare was ending. The question was, what would replace it? 6 months after humanity's impossible victory, Dr. Kim Dae-ho stood once again before the Galactic Council. But everything had changed. The same aliens who had called him a foolish dreamer now listened in respectful silence. Some looked afraid. Others seemed curious. All of them treated him with the careful politeness that people use when talking to someone who could destroy their world with a thought. The chamber was different too. Instead of floating seats arranged in a circle of superiority, the aliens now sat in orderly rows like students in a classroom. At the front of the room, a large display showed the quantum network that now stretched across half the galaxy, connecting thousands of star systems in an invisible web of instant justice. "Honored delegates," Kim began, using the formal language that diplomats preferred. "I know many of you are concerned about the weapon my people created. You have every right to be worried. This technology is more powerful than anything the galaxy has ever seen." Ambassador Hellion of the Vorthak raised one of his forearms to speak. His arrogance was completely gone, replaced by nervous respect. "Dr. Kim, our scientists have studied the quantum network for months. They estimate it now spans more than half the galaxy, and continues to grow. You could destroy any world, any fleet, any civilization at any time. How do we know you will not use this power to conquer us all?" Kim had expected this question. "Because conquest was never our goal, Ambassador. Earth built this weapon to defend ourselves, not to rule others. We are not interested in becoming galactic emperors." A new voice spoke from the back of the chamber. Representative Zara of the Altarian Republic was one of the few aliens who looked genuinely curious, rather than frightened. "If not conquest, then what? You possess ultimate power. What do you intend to do with it?" Dr. Park Bora, now officially titled as Director of Quantum Defense, stepped forward to activate a holographic display. "We call it the Peace Protocol," she announced. "The network will be used to prevent warfare, not to start it." The display showed a detailed map of the galaxy with the quantum network highlighted in blue lines. Thousands of connections formed a web that touched almost every inhabited world. "How would this work?" asked another alien delegate. Dr. Lee Hai-jin joined the presentation. "The network has evolved beyond our original design. It can now detect aggressive military actions before they happen. When one civilization prepares to attack another, the network identifies the threat and can neutralize it instantly." "But who decides what counts as aggression?" Ambassador Hellion demanded. "Who has the authority to judge between right and wrong?" Captain Cho Min-ho, now promoted to admiral and serving as Earth's military representative, answered calmly. "Everyone does. The Peace Protocol will not be controlled by any single race or planet. Every member of the Galactic Council gets an equal vote on its use." The chamber erupted in surprised voices. Aliens spoke in dozens of languages, their translators struggling to keep up with the flood of questions and concerns. A tall alien that looked like a walking tree raised its branch-like arms for attention. You would share this power? Give every world an equal say in how the network operates? Yes, Kim said simply. Humanity learned something important during this crisis. No single race should have the power to control the fate of all others. The network belongs to everyone or it belongs to no one. But Earth built it, protested a small alien with too many eyes. This technology is yours by right of creation. Park Bora shook her head. We built the first version, yes. But the network as it exists now has grown far beyond what we originally designed. It has become something new, something that affects every world in the galaxy. That makes it everyone's responsibility. Lee Hai-jin activated another display showing recent data from the network. We have discovered something remarkable. The network does not just prevent military attacks. It seems to be learning to detect and prevent conflicts before they escalate to violence. What do you mean? Asked Representative Zara. Trade disputes that might lead to war. Border disagreements that could turn violent. Resource conflicts that might result in planetary bombardment. The network identifies these problems early and can encourage peaceful solutions. An alien that looked like a floating jellyfish pulsed different colors as it spoke. Encourage how? Admiral Cho Min-ho smiled grimly. By making it clear that any attempt to use military force will fail immediately, when both sides know that violence is impossible. They tend to find other ways to solve their problems. Kim watched the alien delegates process this information. Some looked relieved. Others seemed worried about losing their military advantages. A few appeared genuinely excited about the possibility of a galaxy without war. There are practical concerns, said a reptilian alien from one of the Outer Rim civilizations. What about legitimate self-defense? What about protecting colonies from pirates or raiders? The network can tell the difference, Lee Hai-jin explained. It has learned to recognize genuine self-defense versus aggressive expansion. Pirates and raiders are legitimate targets. Military invasions are not. And if we disagree with the network's judgment, Ambassador Hellion asked. Then we vote, Kim said. Any action taken by the peace protocol can be reviewed by the full council. If a majority disagrees with the network's decision, we can override it. What about enforcement? Asked Representative Zara. What happens to civilizations that refuse to accept the peace protocol? Park Bora's expression grew serious. The network now reaches their homeworlds. They are already part of the system whether they like it or not, but we hope that once they see how much better life is without constant warfare, they will choose to participate willingly. The debate continued for hours. Aliens raised concerns about sovereignty, about the rights of individual worlds to defend themselves, about the possibility that the network might malfunction or be controlled by hostile forces. Kim and his team answered each question patiently, explaining how the peace protocol would work and why it was necessary. Finally, Representative Zara asked the most important question of all. What happens if this fails? What if the network cannot prevent war? Or if it becomes corrupt and starts causing the very conflicts it was designed to stop? Kim was quiet for a long moment before answering. Then we will have learned something important about power and responsibility. And we will have to find a better way. But for now, Lee Hai-jin added, early results are promising. Since the network became active, military conflicts in the galaxy have decreased by 90%. Trade has increased. Scientific cooperation between species has reached levels not seen in thousands of years. Admiral Cho Min-ho provided the final piece of information. We are also detecting something unexpected. Young civilizations that previously spent most of their resources on weapons are now investing in exploration, art, and science. When you do not have to worry about being invaded, you can focus on more interesting problems. The vote on the peace protocol took place 3 days later. It was not unanimous. Some civilizations still feared giving up their military advantages, and others worried about human influence over the network. But the majority agreed that a galaxy without warfare was worth trying. As the council session ended, Kim reflected on how much had changed since he first proposed the impossible weapon. They had set out to protect Earth from alien aggression and had accidentally created the foundation for galactic peace. Ambassador Hellion approached Kim as the other delegates filed out of the chamber. Dr. Kim, he said quietly, my people owe you an apology. We called your ideas impossible and foolish. We were wrong, Kim smiled. You were not wrong about it being impossible, Ambassador. You were just wrong about that being a reason not to try. Years later, historians would mark this day as the beginning of the Pax Galactica, the great peace that ended warfare between civilizations. The weapon that was supposed to be impossible had become something even more impossible, a tool that made weapons obsolete. Dr. Kim Dae-ho, now elderly and honored throughout the galaxy, often spoke to young scientists about the project. His message never changed. We did not make the impossible possible. We just refused to accept that impossible meant the end of the conversation. That is the most human thing of all, to look at the word impossible and see it as a challenge, not a conclusion. The quantum network continued to grow and evolve, spreading peace across the stars one connection at a time. And somewhere in the deep mathematics of quantum entanglement, the universe itself seemed to approve of what humanity had built, a weapon that ended the need for weapons, a power that made peace possible for all.